Jacob, who's always been a bit of a wallflower, is suddenly thrust into the world of werewolves through his connection with Hunter. But here's the thing, Jacob's got this voice in his head that 𝐊𝐲's been keeping a secret, and his parents are pushing him to take medication for it. Meanwhile, Hunter's family is all about the werewolf traditions and wants Jacob to be part of their world. And there's this underlying tension with a rival werewolf pack that's 𝐿𝐲𝐬𝐷 Jacob. How's Jacob going to reconcile his human life with this new werewolf identity? Will he embrace the bond with Hunter or retreat back into his old life? Chapter 21. Margot and Anthony. Their leadership qualities shining through provided Jacob with a concise explanation about werewolves. They delved into the ancient history of their kind, emphasizing how they had coexisted with humans since time immemorial, always shrouded in secrecy. With patience, they outlined the intricacies of their way of life, highlighting the stark difference human society. The 𝐊𝐲𝐬 family, they revealed, held a position of great importance within the wolf society of the city. Anthony, with his direct and honest nature, explained that he and Margot, as the top alphas, were responsible for maintaining order and stability among their kind. Their roles came with both power and responsibility, a weight they carried with dignity. Hunter, they explained, was attending college merely as a way to occupy his time until he was ready to step into his destined role as the future leader of their society. Jacob, still adapting to this new world, listened intently, his cautious nature evident in his attentive silence. As Margot and Anthony delved deeper into the concept of the bond, Jacob's interest peaked noticeably. They reassured him, their voices calm and supportive, that his feelings were entirely normal and expected, because our son is an alpha wolf, Anthony said, his protective instincts evident in his tone. His love for you will be exceptionally strong. I know this might sound almost insulting to humans, but he'll view you as his, and you're no longer anyone else's. We are inherently protective creatures, with a tendency towards intense jealousy. Hunter's time and devotion will be centered around you, and you'll need to reciprocate that effort. Anthony crossed his arms, his honesty unwavering. Given that it's still early days and my son didn't treat you with the respect you deserve initially, it's acceptable for you to be hesitant about his affection until you acclimate to this lifestyle. However, Jacob, you can't reject it indefinitely. Hunter's feelings for you are profound, and prolonged rejection could cause him both physical and psychological pain if these gaps persist in your bond. Jacob, recalling Hunter's dominant nature, particularly the incident with Brad, felt a mix of awe and trepidation. He was treading in unfamiliar waters, feeling somewhat out of control, a sensation that was entirely new to him given his somewhat submissive personality. Margot, her knowledge of werewolf society evident, added, over time, you'll develop mind links with the pack as those friendships grow. You'll have the ability to block them out, including Hunter's thoughts. This requires practice, but attempting it at your current stage wouldn't be wise. Strengthening your bond should be your priority for now. Jacob's gaze drifted to Hunter, whose arm maintained a gentle contact with his own. Their eyes met, and Hunter's voice echoed in Jacob's mind. Are you all right? Is this too much information? I'm fine, Jacob responded mentally, still marveling at this new form of communication. Hunter's gray eyes softened as he smiled warmly at Jacob. Would you like to meet the rest of my pack today, or are you still not ready? Jacob felt a rush of warmth at Hunter's considerate offer, but before he could respond, Margot interjected, her maternal instinct kicking in. I don't think 𝐊𝐲's ready. Give him time to get used to you first. Hunter nodded in understanding, his protective nature evident as he continued to study his mate, silently vowing to give Jacob all the time and support he needed to adjust to this new world. Do you feel better about this situation, Jacob? Anthony asked, telling the truth to a human was sitting well with him. Well, answer any questions you have. Jacob nodded. Now that he had a better understanding of werewolves and how Hunter and himself are inclined to feel, he did manage to swallow his anxieties. Good. Anthony liked Jacob, but he wasn't sure how the community would accept it. It would have to be announced, of course. 𝐊𝐴𝐼𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝 sons made a secret. Come on, Hunter said and stood up. Let's go into my room for a little while. Jacob followed him while Margot and Anthony's eyes followed them. As soon as Jacob set foot in Hunter's room, Anthony and Margot noticed how Hunter didn't show a single flinch of emotion. Once the door was shut behind the boys, they looked at each other. I can't believe this is happening. Margot lifted a hand and rubbed the back of her husband's neck. It was very unexpected. She smiled. I didn't suspect he was gay at all. Me neither. Anthony sighed. But I'm really happy for him. He was obviously yet to discover he would say they found his mate. I'm just glad that lunar love has given him an opportunity to be his true self. Me too. Jacob sat on the edge of Hunter's bed and thought about what he would tell his parents if they found out that he skipped college today. Don't worry about that. Hunter smiled and sat next to him. We can think about it later. Jacob nodded, thoughtfully chewing on his bottom lip. Do you really think of me as your property? He asked quietly. No, Hunter chuckled. You're much more special to me. Obviously. I think of you as a part of my territory and am very protective of it. As all wolves are. But you're not and never will be my property. Nobody owns you. Not really. I just like to think I do because those traits are wired into me. Jacob wasn't sure why he felt it, but there was a twitch of comfort at the thought of Hunter being protective over him. It was nice to have someone who cared about him in that way. Someone other than his family. I know everything's changing so fast for you, but you're coping well. Hunter's voice was low. Jacob was very aware that the werewolf was getting closer. He glanced down to when Hunter's fingers gently touched the tips of his. Jacob didn't move his hand away, but he didn't dare to move it closer. It was hard to keep himself composed when feeling strong emotions that he couldn't control. You don't need to hold anything back. Hunter stared at his mouth. You know I won't mind if you get close because I want you to. Jacob knew that already. Hunter thought about it all the time. So instead of getting closer, he shuffled up the bed a little more so he could lean his back against the wall. Hunter then moved so he was sitting in front of him and crossed his legs. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask me? Jacob watched him lean forward. He could feel Hunter's emotions mixing with his own and they felt stronger today. Why do you want to kiss me? He said like the words forced their way out of his mouth. Oh, well, Hunter didn't expect him to ask that. Because you're my mate, Jacob. And I'm attracted to you. Jacob sighed. He still felt confused about almost everything related to Hunter's world, but he knew what he wanted. I want to kiss you too, he whispered. I've never felt like this before. I've never been this attracted to anyone. Hunter cowled and suppressed a smile. That's okay. I want you to tell me when you're ready and don't feel like you have to rush. Okay. So, does this mean that you're accepting our bond? A bit. Hunter's gray eyes gleamed at his cuteness. If you need time, then take it. I don't know what it's like to be human and think people like me and my family are myth. It must be weird. It's like me finding out that vampires exist. Jacob was looking more and more comfortable, sinking into his bed with his back pressed against the cold wooden wall. I love it when you chew on your lip like that. Jacob's eyes shot up to see Hunter's glowing with a warm passion. He was staring at Jacob in a way that made him feel like he was the most precious thing in the room. It's because you are. You're going to be the center of my attention for the rest of my life. And you don't mind that. Of course not. Hunter chuckled. You don't realize how unique you are. And that's a really good thing. Jacob's cheeks flustered. He was used to compliments. I thought I was normal. He mumbled. I guess I'm not in my world. But I am in yours. You're just not meant to live a normal human life. Hunter grinned. You're supposed to be running around with werewolves. Even if you haven't discovered it yet. It's in your nature. Hunter focused on Jacob's face as he gently placed his hands on his mate's knees. I know you like my touch. Hunter's deep voice always sent a shiver down his mate's spine. I want you to get used to it. I know. Jacob whispered. You already told me. Emotions were pumping through his veins. He wasn't sure if they belonged to him or Hunter. Jacob's thoughts drifted to how relieved he felt in the car park when Hunter embraced him. Hunter's smell and warmth surrounded his entire body. Even now, when Jacob looked at him, his heart throbbed with the adrenaline of what was yet to come. They were only going to grow closer. They had no other choice. Hunter squeezed his knees and Jacob clenched his jaw, trying to stop himself from looking into his eyes. Hunter was so hard to resist. "I told you." Hunter's voice was soft. Don't hold anything back. He struggled to stop himself from kissing his mate with the love that he so rightly craved. Jacob had always wondered what it would be like to be in a relationship, one in which he could let his guard down and build trust, and he could be himself and enjoy everything it had to offer. Now that there was a huge opportunity for one to start, he wasn't quite sure what to make of it. Jacob thought about what he needed to do. How did two people get close enough to have assurance and faith in one another? At what point does their relationship or whatever was happening between him and Hunter become official? You don't have to do anything. Hunter cowled and take his gaze away from those brown eyes. It will all happen naturally. If it happens naturally, then nothing will ever happen. Jacob was too shy to make first moves and hold hands first. Then leave it to me. It doesn't matter if you're shy. I like that. My dominant side will shine more. I can't help that part of me, but it looks like it'll benefit us how. I have enough confidence for the both of us. Hunter smiled. All I ask is that you accept my affection. I want nothing more than your acceptance, and it kills me when you edge away or tense up. His hands were still resting on Jacob's knees. Jacob fiddled with his hoodie sleeves. Okay, I'll do my best. Jacob. Hunter inhaled a very deep breath and said quickly, "Can I please kiss your cheek?" His mate's eyes turned into miniature saucepans. "It's just your cheek. Nowhere else. Just my cheek," Jacob whispered. "I promise." Hunter climbed onto his knees and continued to keep his hands on Jacob. His actions were smooth as he moved his face very close. Jacob wanted to turn his head away, but instead, he was paralyzed by the warmth of Hunter's breath against his lips. He couldn't describe how alluring it felt, but Hunter was true to his promises and moved his head until his lips traced Jacob's blushing cheek. As predicted, his skin was hot and soft. Hunter's hands subconsciously moved down his mate's legs. It wasn't enough for Jacob to panic, and the human relaxed, pressing his cheek harder against his mouth. Hunter was placing his mark on his mate. He then pulled his head back, but only by a few inches. His eyes traced Jacob's face and was suffocating. That was so bad now. What? Chapter 22. William stood outside the college. It was 3 PM and his brother was nowhere to be seen. He didn't spot him at lunch, and Jacob was waiting for him by the door like he usually did. William had already texted his brother to ask if he was okay, but he got no reply, which was even more alarming. After hovering by the exit for a minute longer, William decided to call his brother despite him hating speaking on the phone. Jacob sat on the wooden steps of Hunter's family home. He watched Hunter and Anthony, who had changed into their wolf forms. They were both huge white wolves effortlessly prancing around the big field. Margot was sitting next to Jacob. She adored his calm aura. "Is it still unusual to see us as wolves? How many times has Hunter shown you his wolf form?" she asked, making Jacob jump. Yeah, it's weird still," he said quietly and wrapped arms around himself. "Hunter has shown me a few times. I bet he tried to lick your face too." She chuckled when Jacob nodded. "He gets very excited when in his wolf form. He still acts like a pup." Jacob's brown eyes followed the two wolves. He could tell which one was Hunter because, for some reason, he stood out to him like a bright star in the sky. Before Margot could say anything else, Jacob's phone started ringing. She watched as he fumbled around in his pockets before pulling it out. "Hi, Will, witch," he answered and hurried away. Margot smiled as he wandered around the side of the house to get some privacy. "Hey," his brother's cheery voice said on the other end of the call. "Sorry for calling, but I'm standing outside college now. Where are you?" Jacob's heart leapt up his throat. What should he say? I am staying behind to do some work." He lied, sitting on the grass and leaning his back against the wall, hoping his brother didn't want to join him. William could hear birds chirping in the background, and he tried not to smirk, knowing he would sound amused. "Are you sure? You sound like you're outside." Jacob stared at a beetle as it adventured through the grass blades. "I'm sure by." "Wait. Hold on a sec." William chuckled. "If you're at that field, it's fine. I know you like peace and quiet. But please tell me if you're going. You don't have to lie to me. It's my job to lie to Mom and Dad." Jacob smiled. He loved his brother. "Just text me when you're coming home, all right?" "Okay," Jacob said and lifted his head when a great white wolf bounced into view. "Bye, Will. See you later." When Hunter sat on his back legs and panted with the tongue sticking out of his mouth. He was tired from running around and play fighting with his dad. Jacob studied his muddy paws. "Stroke me, please." Hunter leaned forwards and nudged Jacob's shoulder with his nose. Without hesitation this time, Jacob lifted his hand and sank it into the soft white fur. His other hand caressed Hunter's ear because he remembered him saying that he liked it. "There's nothing better than being stroked by you." Jacob watched his tail wag with excitement, and a small smile crept its way onto his face. "And I love that smile." Hunter lifted his head and licked Jacob across his face. Jacob scrunched his eyes shut and immediately wiped it. "I can't decide if that's gross or not," he said, and Hunter did it again. "I'm giving you wolf kisses." "I don't think I want wolf kisses." Jacob rubbed his face again. His eyes glistened and there was still a faint smile on his lips. "Would you prefer Hunter kisses?" Jacob watched those beautiful gray eyes. He was sure how to answer, but the first thing that came to mind was a definite yes. He attempted to block it out. My brother just called." He wanted to change the subject. Hunter noticed but didn't say anything as he casually changed back. Jacob wanted to ask Quian how his trousers were able to stay on his body when his sure tripped every time. I don't know. Hunter shrugged as he knelt in front of him. "My mom might know. And you don't have to go home or anything, do you?" Jacob shook his head. He was glad that he could spend more time with him. "He thinks I'm in the field. Eventually, we'll be able to tell your family about our relationship. Maybe wait until it's official between us. I don't know when that will be, but there's no rush." Jacob nodded. It was going to be difficult keeping this from them. What would he do if his family planned days out or weekend trips away? He couldn't just leave for 2 days without seeing Hunter. It would kill his body. "Oh, don't worry about that. We will discreetly follow your family around so we accidentally bump into one another. You'll make sure we're never separated for longer than a day." That made Jacob feel better, but the thought of Hunter knowing where he was at all times was a little odd. "Boys," Anthony questioned and stood by the corner of the house, out of breath while putting on a shirt. "Are you hungry?" Jacob's eyes instantly lit up. "That's a yes from you then." Anthony chuckled. "Son, sure." Hunter stood up and held a hand out to his mate. Jacob almost didn't take it, but he was craving his touch. Jacob hesitantly placed his hand on his. Hunter used very little effort to pull him to his feet. Touch to Jacob was always unwanted, but Hunter's skin melted into his every time. Hunter pulled Jacob closer than what he would have liked. But when the wind changed and filled Jacob's nostrils with Hunter's smell of spice and cinnamon, Jacob let go of his discomforts and closely followed him to the front door. Jacob left Hunter's home at 7 in the evening. Anthony dropped him off so he didn't have to walk back. It was a few hours by foot when Jacob entered his own home. Grace and Scott were waiting for him in the kitchen. "You missed dinner." Grace watched him stand awkwardly by the door with his bag in his grip. "Sorry." She crossed her arms and tracing her eyes up and down as if his clothes would speak for him. Jacob hated it when she looked at him like that. "I tried calling you, but you didn't pick up." Jacob had been avoiding talking to her on the phone because she would have told him to come home. He glanced down to his feet and shuffled back. "Hold on a minute," Grace said. "Come take a seat. We want to talk with you." Jacob was in the mood for talking. It has been a few days since his parents did their usual interrogation. When he took a seat at the table, Scott sat forwards. "So what's up?" he asked with a kind smile. Jacob sometimes wished his mother could adopt his calm tone. "Nothing. Well, you've been telling us that you're staying behind in college." Scott knew that was a lie. "You've been distant recently and quieter than usual." "I'm fine." Jacob was wringing his hands with nerves. "You're not fine." Grace sighed. Irritated that Scott was angry too. Look at you. You look like you're talking to ghosts." Jacob frowned and sat back in his chair. "We've been doing some talking. Your father and I. And we think it's best if we try and put you back on medication." Scott's eyes darted to his wife, not quite remembering having that discussion. Jacob stood up like someone had knocked over the teapot and backed away. "No," he breathed with troubled eyes that Scott couldn't bear to look at. "No way. The voice has been getting worse and you're getting more paranoid and depressed each day." Grace was pleading with her son. "It will help you. There's nothing wrong with me." Jacob was getting upset. He answers now for the voice, and life might start to pick itself up again. He wasn't allowed to tell his parents. They would think he had gone insane. Not being able to tell them was extremely hard. Too hard. Who could he turn to if he needed to talk? Me, Hunter's voice boomed in his head. "You can always talk to me about anything." "There is. You're not well." "I'm not touching any medication. I'm not sick or depressed. I'm fine." Jacob's hands were starting to tremble. "You are in denial, Jacob. There's nothing to be ashamed of or scared about. You just need to." Jacob shook his head and clenched his hands into fists. "Calm down." His mother never understood or listened to what he wanted. "I know how I feel. Don't tell me I'm in denial. You're not the one who has lived through this for half a year." He snapped before turning and quickly running out of the kitchen. "You need to relax and take deep breaths. Everything will be okay." Jacob ran up the stairs and into the bedroom. William was sitting on his bed doing homework when Jacob chucked his bag on the floor and threw himself onto his bed. His eyes twinkled with tears and his frown cast sad shadows on his cheek. William watched him bury himself under his duvet. "I told Mum." William sighed. "I told Mum not to force the idea onto you. It hasn't helped you in the past." Jacob's face was pressed into his pillow, but he heard his brother. "Don't worry. They can't force you." Jacob turned over and faced the wall. He allowed a few tears to escape with frustration. He had come to learn that his parents wanted what's best for him, but they don't truly listen to what he wants for himself. "We have to figure out a way to ease their image about the voice in your head." Hunter was sitting on his bed with a frown, zoning in on his mate because if he hurt. Hunter hurt with him. "You need to tell them that you're hearing it less until it becomes completely silent. They won't believe me. They'll think I'm just trying to get them off my back." "Well, they'll have to believe you. There's nothing else you can do." Jacob wished he hadn't told his parents about the voice. If he knew it was Hunter, he would have stayed quiet. "This is all my fault. But from now on, I'm always going to be here for you. Day and night." "It's all right, Jacob." William spoke when he heard him sniffing back his sadness. "You won't be like this forever." Jacob curled into a ball and closed his eyes. It was at that moment when he realized that he wished Hunter was with him. Jacob wanted his comfort more than anyone else's. Chapter 23. The next morning, Jacob didn't speak to his parents. He got up early, even though it was a Saturday morning. He left the house before his parents had the chance to wake up. Jacob had been walking for almost an hour with his head stuck in his thoughts. He needed to see Hunter, who had been on his mind all night. Jacob even had pleasant dreams about sleeping next to him and once again found himself disappointed that he was alone. He had realized that he was accepting his feeling more and more with each passing day. Jacob found out who Hunter really was on Wednesday. He never thought he'd come to terms with it so fast. Those feelings he felt were powerful, almost giving him no choice. "Jacob, where are you?" Hunter's voice made him jump. Up until now, the werewolf had been asleep. Jacob looked up to see himself surrounded by trees. He hadn't been keeping track of where he was going. No. Why are you up and outside so early?" "Because I wanted it to be." He mumbled and looked around again. Jacob really had no idea where he was. Are you making your way to my house? Yes. Hunter sat up in his bed and stretched. And are you now lost? Yes. Hunter reached over and picked up his phone. He dialed Sam's number. And he picked up almost immediately. Yes, Alpha. Sam questioned. Go and find Jacob. He got lost on the way to my house. HES in the woods. Yes, right away. Hunter hung up and climbed out of bed. Sam's coming to get you. Jacob wasn't sure how he'd be able to find him in the woods. It was huge. He knows your scent, he'll be able to smell you from at least a mile away. Jacob sat on a log, assuming that he'd have to stay in the same place. It was no surprise to him that he got lost. He was a daydreamer. Jacob needed to be more careful. It was safe to wander the woods, not now that he knew werewolves existed. That's interesting. A woman's voice said, startling Jacob. Standing behind him was a woman who looked to be in her late 20s. She had long brown hair that flowed freely in the wind. Her jeans and gray vest hugged her figure. You're each sharing a mind link with someone. Jacob scrambled to his feet and backed away. And you have Hunter Ray's son sent on you. How did she know Hunter? Was she another werewolf? What's going on? Hunter asked and received no reply. But you're a human. Don't tell me he is mates with you. She chuckled. It was with humor. Who are you? Who are you? Jacob stuttered. There's no way an alpha mated with you. That would be so embarrassing. She grinned with eyes as emotional as a corpse. Jacob, who's with you? Hunter had started getting dressed. He didn't like what his mate was thinking. I don't know. It's a woman who knows about you. Wait until my pack finds out about this. We've been looking for a way to get back at Hunter after he crossed into our territory. The woman's smile turned into an odd expression of anger, like she was baring her teeth. Hunter stopped and stared with intense concentration. His mate was in danger, so he had no other choice. He blocked Jacob's mind link and connected with his whole pack. Get up, everyone. Jacob has run into the path of a rival pack member. Get to him now. He roared in his head before turning his mate's slink back on and running out of his room. Sam was in his wolf form and running through the woods. He picked up his pace, knowing that he needed to get to him and quickly. Anthony and Margot were sitting on the wooden steps outside when Hunter almost tripped over them as he dashed out of the door. He looked distressed, and they knew something was wrong. What's going on? Anthony asked, but his son changed into his wolf form and sprinted across the field. His parents didn't waste more time on questions that wouldn't be answered. They shifted into wolves and followed him. Jacob could feel Hunter's panic and understood that he was in a lot of danger. He remembered him saying that the rival packs were aggressive and it was dangerous for them to find out he was the mate of an alpha, who knew that Hunter was gay. He'll soon be the laughingstock of our town, the woman snorted. Jacob frowned and took a step back. The branches were snapping under his feet, and he suddenly felt very alone. Hold on, Jacob, I'll be with you soon. Hunter was galloping through the woods with his parents close behind. I always had the hots for him, but HES to control him, and we'd probably end up killing each other. I guess you enjoy being bossed around by a big werewolf. The woman smirked. I'm Jacob. She could smell his fear. HES not bossy, Jacob said quietly, all feeling defensive. Cute. Suddenly, there was crashing of paws on crunchy leaves. Jacob turned and his heart thumped. It happened so fast. Jacob barely had time to relax when 6 huge wolves came running up behind him. 2 were black and 4 were brown. They were all as big as Hunter. Jacob almost forgot to breathe until they all changed into their human form. The woman behind him had taken a step back out of fear of being so quickly outnumbered. Sam, Jacob whispered with relief. Very glad to see a familiar face. Sam jogged over and rested a hand on his shoulder. Jacob, are you okay? She hasn't hurt you, has she? Jacob shook his head and eyed the other 5 men. One of them was Brad, who, for once, looked concerned for him. Good. Sam patted Jacob's back before standing in front of him. The rest of Hunter's pack growled. Well, she grinned. I see Hunter has his mate on a short leash. Shut it. "Alicia," Sam grumbled. "What are you doing in our territory?" "I'm only repaying the visit. I can't wait to tell 𝐿𝐴𝐵 about this. If you don't leave now, you can say goodbye to that nice long hair of yours." "Are you threatening me?" Suddenly, there were more loud thumping of paws as everyone glanced to their right. Through the trees, they could make out 3 magnificent white wolves who were getting close at a phenomenal speed. Jacob knew it was Hunter, and Sam stood proudly and waited for his alpha. Hunter was glad to see his pack surrounding Jacob, protecting him from harm. As soon as he was close enough, he changed into his human form and didn't stop moving until he was at his mate's side. Margot and Anthony changed too, and Alicia knew she was in trouble. It was bad enough that she got caught by the main alpha's son, let alone the big boss himself. Hunter wrapped an arm around Jacob's waist and held him firmly against his body. Jacob didn't protest. His chest hurt, and he needed to feel his comfort. A low and dominating growl escaped Hunter's lips. For some reason, it sent a shiver down Jacob's spine. "How dare you speak to him?" Hunter said coldly. "We were just having a friendly chit-chat." Alicia smiled and stepped back when Anthony glared at her. "You have 1 minute to get out of our territory before I tear your home down." Anthony was angry. She had firstly trespassed, and secondly, Alicia felt like she had the right to freak out his son's mate. "It was nice to meet your mate, Hunter," she said, and started walking backwards. "He'll be hearing from us soon, I'm sure." Hunter's anger exploded from him like a popped balloon full of water. He let go of his mate and ran towards her. She wasn't quick enough to get out of his reach before he grabbed her hair and gripped her throat hard. "Making threats towards my mate is not wise." Hunter growled. "Give me one good reason why I shouldn't hurt you." Jacob watched with wide eyes. "Let go of me." Alicia struggled in his grip, but he only held on tighter. Sam saw a raging fire in his eyes, and nothing could persuade Hunter to back down when he was that angry. Not even his parents. "You picked the wrong day to adventure to far." He pulled her hair a little tighter, making her gasp. Hunter's pack watched with satisfied smiles. They loved the power of their alpha, and his dominance made them feel proud to be part of his pack. "In leaving now, my pack know what you're doing to me." Alicia was on the verge of gasping for air. If he gripped any tighter, he would crush her airwaves. "Do you really think I care?" Hunter was seething. Nobody was allowed to talk to his mate the way she did. "You're going to pay, Hunter." A quiet voice interrupted him. Hunter's pack glanced at Jacob, who had taken a tiny step forward and was fidgeting with his fingers. "Please stop," Jacob thought in his head. Hunter observed him from the corner of his eyes. "She threatened you." "I know, but this isn't right." Hunter saw the way Jacob was looking at him. He didn't want to look like a monster. "Fine." Hunter glanced back at Alicia with a sigh before pushing her back with a lot of force. "You're lucky my mate stopped me. Next time, I won't hold back." Hunter yelled while she scrambled to her feet and changed into a black wolf. Alicia ran away with a tail between her legs, and Hunter returned to Jacob's side. Hunter didn't stop until their chests touched. He reached up and cupped his chin with his fingers. "Are you okay?" Jacob was shaken up, but he nodded in confirmation. Hunter didn't ask for permission this time when he leaned close and kissed Jacob's cheek. Jacob melted instantly. He was sure why he suddenly accepted his touch. The feel of his face being so close was what his body wanted. Hunter then wrapped his arms around 𝐊𝐵𝐿𝐴𝐵's shoulders and forced his face against his shoulder. Once again, Jacob found himself accepting it as he loosely gripped his waist. He never thought 𝐊𝐴𝐺 ever crave hugs, especially from Hunter. When Jacob first met him, Hunter was just his brother's friend who was a part of their project. Not even in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that this would happen to him. Why him? Out of all the people who could have been Hunter's mate, and he got an airhead plagued with problems. Be nice to yourself. You're perfect for me. Otherwise, the bond wouldn't exist. Hunter thought and glared at Brad when he crossed his arms with a quiet huff. "It's true. I'm broken. I can fix you." Hunter pulled his head back with a big smile. Jacob's cheeks flushed red, though he didn't step away. When he broke their eye contact, he noticed Hunter's pack staring at him. Judging him. They're not judging you. They wouldn't dare. Hunter stood proudly with his mate. He remembered when he had to tell his pack about his mate being male. Hunter was nervous, and their reactions were prolonged. Sam was the first one to get up and congratulate him. Sam didn't care about his alpha's mate being male, he was just happy that Hunter found love. For those of you who haven't been introduced, this is my mate, Jacob Jones. The nurse stabbed Jake upright in the stomach. Hunter put his arm around him, and it settled him. Jacob was confused by his feelings. He still barely knew Hunter, though his body accepted his comfort. You're warming up to me, aren't you? Hunter thought. Jacob could almost hear his satisfied tone. He glanced up, and his face was close enough for him to feel his breath. I think so. Wow, impossible things can become possible. Hunter grinned like an idiot and squeezed Jacob's side. He watched Jacob attempt to stop himself from squirming away. Does this mean I can kiss you properly now? Chapter 24. No. Jacob frowned. Why not? Because I don't want you to. That's not a valid reason. In all honesty, Jacob didn't have a reason as to why Hunter wouldn't kiss him, other than his nervous mind. What if he was an atrocious kisser? What if it felt too awkward? Will I be your first kiss? Hunter questioned. Jacob nodded while Hunter's parents and pack talked among themselves about the rival pack. It doesn't matter if you're not the best kisser then. I'll teach you. My lips are available for lessons as of today. Jacob looked at him with a funny frown. He was trying not to smile, which was unusual for him. He never usually had anything to smile about. No. Hunter chuckled deeply, sending waves of pleasure through Jacob. Why not? He asked out loud. Tell me if I'm being too forceful. I can't help it. It's my alpha nature. You are a bit, but I don't mind. Are you sure? Jacob nodded and found himself staring at Hunter's mouth. Hunter brought his face in close and that's when Jacob realized he wasn't wearing a t-shirt. He felt his breath against his lips and found himself leaning into him more too. When you're ready, Hunter whispered. I will kiss you. Jacob's senses felt like they died and instantly got reincarnated. He had never felt anything so strong. Hunter knew he was growing to be rather irresistible for his innocent mate, and he loved it. Hunter. Anthony had cleared his throat multiple times, but his son was very engrossed with his mate. Hunter glanced at him but didn't move his face away from Jacob, who could only stare at his mouth. He felt like he was in some trance. Whilst the bond's supposed to settle after a few days, he felt like it was getting stronger. But maybe that's because he is finally accepting it. You need to have a meeting with your pack about this. Well, take Jacob back to the house until you're finished. Hunter stood up straight as Jacob was pulled back into the real world. No, he stays with me. Son, he can't be at pack meetings. Margot didn't go to Anthony's pack meetings unless it was urgent. He deserves to know what's going on. This involves him, so he's staying with me. Hunter was a little stern and knew his dad would yell at him for it later. But in front of his pack, he cowed and humiliated Hunter. It wouldn't be fair. Fine. We'll talk about this when you get back. Hunter watched as his parents turned into two magnificent white wolves and started their journey back to the house. Come on then. Let's go. Hunter's shirtless pack changed into wolves and playfully started running in the direction of the field. They'll give you a lift. Hunter smiled and turned into his huge wolf form. He rubbed his furry head against his mate's hip. Wait. Jacob frowned and found himself subconsciously patting his head. A lift. A lift. Yes, get on my back. Won't I be too heavy? No, climb on. Hunter stood still and watched him. Jacob wasn't sure if he should be cautious or extremely excited to get such a great opportunity, but he was curious and threw a leg over his back. Are you sure I'm not hurting you? You're big, but I'm stronger. If Hunter was in his human form, he would have flashed him a cheeky grin. Hold on to me. Where? Put your arms around my neck. Jacob leaned his body against the warm fur and wrapped his arms around Hunter. His head was just below Hunter's head, who was extremely happy about getting a hug. Hold on tight. He started to run through the woods and Jacob almost fell off, causing him to grip tighter. He wasn't sure if he liked the experience. It was like riding on a horse, but twice as hard. It took them only for minutes to reach the field. Jacob sat up when Hunter casually walked through it and towards his pack members. When the great wolf stopped, Jacob climbed off. His mind was a bit all over the place after trying to process, but he just rode on an overgrown wolf through the woods. He never thought he would ever have the opportunity to even think about it. Hunter changed back and stood up. "Are you all right? How was it?" he asked his mate while his pack members stood up too. Good, I think." Hunter smiled. "You'll get used to it." He then turned to the guys and thought it was now the best time to introduce them. "Jacob, this is Harrison, Z.E. and Jonah," he said, and watched them all give him a big smile except for Z.A.C. "You've met Sam and Brad before." "Hi," Jacob said quietly. His heart was beating fast. "Hey, it's great to finally meet you." Jonah grinned, making Harrison nod. "I hope you're settling in well," he asked. Jacob responded with a nod and received an even bigger smile from Ricky. Z.A.C. was a little like Brad and didn't like the idea of Hunter being gay and having a male mate. He personally thought it made him look weak. Although, if he said that, Hunter would be very mad and nobody liked it when he lost his temper. "Right, the rich, right? Let's start the meeting." Everyone sat down. Jacob stayed close to Hunter since he was feeling exceptionally shy in the eyes of strangers. "So Alpha, what are we going to do about this?" "They're feeling confident enough to threaten Jacob in front of you," Sam said. "We need to keep the rival pack in our sights. Harrison and Jonah, stay on the border of our territory and tell me straight away if they're getting close or even attempt to cross over. Z.A.C., Brad and Ricky, you'll keep watch of Jacob from a distance when HES with me and especially when HES by himself. We can't let what happened today happen again. Sam, just do what you do normally and stick to me like a lost pup." Hey, Sam chuckled. "But yes, I will." Hunter smirked at him and looked at Jacob. "Are you okay with that?" Jacob nodded, but he was a little unsure about Brad and Z.A.C. He was sure why he was getting a bad vibe from Z.A.C. because he hasn't done anything to make him feel that way. "Is everyone else okay with that?" Everyone nodded. "Good. Now all of you go and spy on the rival pack until I tell you otherwise." Hunter's pack stood up apart from Sam. "You too." Hunter sighed. "Oh, come on. I wanted to get to know Jacob a little more." He winked and begged with his eyes. "Go away." Sam rolled his eyes and stood up. "Fine," he muttered and changed into a huge black wolf. Jacob watched him turn and gallop after the rest of the pack. "You don't need to worry about any of this," Hunter said when they were gone. "We have it under control." Jacob pulled on the grass blades and chewed on his bottom lip. Hunter was sitting close enough for their arms to touch, and it was all he could think about. Not to mention his shirtless body that he was trying so hard to avoid with his eyes. Hunter smiled after hearing his thoughts. He didn't want to be too forceful with his affection, but he knew Jacob wanted it. He was just as shy to make the first move. He slowly moved and rested his bare chest against his arm and he brought his face in very close. "You know I want it just as much as you." He was aiming to be very seductive. Jacob's eyes flashed to his, but only for a moment. "You said you'd give me time," he whispered, "but I can hear you thinking about it. You want it, but you're not ready to admit it." It was true that Jacob wanted to express his affection. He just didn't know how. This was very, very new to him. He moved on to fiddling with his fingers instead of the grass. "I'm nervous." Hunter's heart melted. His mate is so precious. He lifted his hand and very delicately placed it on the side of his warm cheek. He rubbed it with his thumb and smiled. "Don't be nervous. I'm not judging you and don't feel pressured to rush. I can wait until you're 100% comfortable." Hunter's silky voice embedded into Jacob's thoughts. He was so sweet and caring. Nobody had ever made him feel this way before. He never thought HE'd be lucky enough to find someone who just understood him and liked him for who he is. But Hunter does. In fact, he knows him very well, and it was much easier to trust someone like that. Especially now they'll be together for life. Hunter was surprised. It was the longest time that Jacob had made eye contact, and it was when there were only a few inches between their faces. They appeared to be sharing a moment. It was a moment of trust, assurance, and comfort. Hunter moved his hand to the back of his head and embedded his fingers into his hair. Judging by how fast Jacob's pupils dilated showed that he liked the feel of it. He then moved his face in even closer and rested their foreheads together. Jacob didn't even think about moving away. It felt good to be this close. "Hunter," he whispered. Hunter almost lost his mind when his breath brushed effortlessly against his mouth. "Are you sure it's me you want?" The werewolf lifted his other hand and placed it on Jacob's other cheek. "Without a doubt," he whispered back. "It's you I want." Jacob's body fully relaxed and he pushed his head softly against his in return. His mind cleared and he knew exactly where he was going and where he wanted to be in this remarkable world. And that was to be Hunter Ray-Sun's mate. "I'm ready." Chapter 25. "Well then," Hunter whispered. "I'm going to kiss you." Jacob felt a jolt of excitement. Why was he freaking out? This was the 4th day of feeling the bond and Cal didn't believe he had accepted it this fast. If Hunter had his way, he would have kissed him as they connected. "Is that okay with you?" He stared at his mouth. Jacob nodded against his forehead. He was curious to know what it would feel like to kiss him. For years, he has known he was attracted to guys, but he never dared to put that theory to the test. Hunter's heart was racing. He never thought his mate would be male. Although, he did not once care enough for it to affect how he feels about Jacob. If 𝐻ES attracted to him, then 𝐻ES going to fully embrace it. And this was it. They were connecting on a deeper level. Hunter brought his face closer until Jacob's lips traced his own. A spark of electricity surged through them, creating Jacob to lean into him further and seal the kiss. Their minds grew foggy with affection and the closeness of their relationship. Jacob's scent was enough to melt Hunter's insides, but now they were sharing a kiss and 𝐾𝐜𝐬𝐬 a better feeling. He kissed him again and Jacob subconsciously rested his hand on Hunter's knee so he could lean into him with more ease. He could barely believe that he was kissing someone. It felt so good. In fact, it felt amazing. Hunter wanted to pull the kiss deeper, but Jacob was used to kissing anyone and would most likely struggle to keep up. And this was their first kiss. He didn't want to rush him. He was just about to steal the 3rd kiss when Jacob pulled back an inch. Their lips parted, feeling the cool breeze of the Saturday morning air. He wanted to take a moment and cherish what he had just done. He felt proud of himself for going this far when he never thought he would. He could already feel a new version of himself. Well, his old self is very slowly returning after one hellish year. Hunter could feel his warm and soft lips still lingering on his own. "I knew that would feel amazing," he whispered. Jacob opened his eyes and pulled his head back a little more so he could see his face properly. Hunter's beautiful gray eyes were glistening with passion. "Are you okay?" He smiled. "You look a little starstruck." "I am just..." Jacob trailed off. So instead, he surprised Hunter by leaning forward and wrapping his arms around his bare waist. He allowed his body to collapse into his head to rest comfortably against his shoulder, giving him a hug. Hunter wrapped his arms around him after he realized what he was doing. They both felt combined by a tighter force after sharing something so personal. They didn't really explain how or why. Fancy going back to mine and watching a film or something, Hunter suggested with a content smile on his face. Okay, Jacob whispered and pulled back. Now that they had shared something he was nervous about, he felt a lot more relaxed in Hunter's presence. 𝐻ES not picking up his phone. Grace grumbled and stared at her husband. It was now 4:30 in the evening and he had been out all day. "Mom, will you chill out?" William sighed and looked up from his phone. What's wrong with him being out all day? 𝐻ES 17. Not a kid. He isn't very stable at the minute. Grace snapped. He can't be out on his own when 𝐻ES feeling low. You don't know if 𝐻ES feeling low. He loves to be outside. Maybe it's helping him. William felt like he understood his brother more than his own mother. He just shouldn't be on his own. She sighed. "Grace," Scott said, grabbing her attention. "You need to take a step back. 𝐻ES closing us out because you're trapping him in." You need to give him room to be himself. He'll tell us how he feels when he wants to." Just then, the front door opened and closed. Everyone stared at the living room door until it opened and Jacob walked in. He stopped when they were all staring at him. "Where have you been?" Grace asked with wide eyes and hands on her hips. Scott sighed and William rolled his eyes. Jacob slowly began to fidget. "Nowhere. You've been out all day, and you don't answer your phone anymore. What's going on?" She crossed her arms when Scott stood up. "What did I just say?" he asked. "You have to give him space. He is allowed to be outside all day if he wants." Scott then turned to Jacob with a gentle smile. "Although it would be nice to know where you are." Jacob thought about how he had spent the whole day with Hunter and shared his first ever kiss. They'd freak out if he told them. They wouldn't understand the urgency for them to develop their relationship so quickly. Also, he didn't even want to think about how his mom would react to him being gay. His dad would probably be okay with it. He's a psychologist. It's part of his job to understand people with minimal judging. But he really didn't know what William would say. So then, Grace questioned, a little softer this time, "Where have you been all day?" "Just getting fresh air. I wanted to be by myself." Jacob said quietly, "Be truthful. You wanted to spend the day kissing me." Hunter's voice boomed in the back of his mind. It didn't make him jump anymore because he didn't spend every moment wishing it would stay quiet. "Shut up." Jacob could have sworn he heard his deep chuckle. "Why did you ignore our calls then?" Grace asked. "Because I wanted to be alone and not talk to anyone." Jacob had started a slow backwards walk towards the stairs. He hated lying. "You could have at least sent me a text to say you were okay. You were up and out before any of us even woke." Scott still hadn't forgotten about the time that Jacob had gone off with Hunter and his friends after lying about where he was going to be. It made him wonder if he was giving his mother basic answers because he was still lying. Or maybe Hunter was just helping him with his work on the project. Scott really didn't know and he wouldn't question him in front of everyone. It was fair to do that to him and it was the correct approach to take. That is when his and Grace's parenting skills cause conflict. Grace is forceful, sometimes strict, very overprotective and doesn't think before she speaks. While Scott is always calm, he never raises his voice. He gives freedom when it needs to be given and he observes quietly. "Is it possible for me to come around to yours tomorrow? I think you need to stay near your family so they don't suspect anything." Hunter asked. "Good idea. I can phone Will later. He'll be happy to get started on the project." Jacob brought a hand up and lightly rubbed his chest. He missed him. "You keep promising me that you'll use your phone more. That is why you have one, Jacob." Grace continued to lecture him. "I think he knows after today, hon." Scott added, "Don't you, son?" Jacob nodded. He just wanted to go up to his room and talk with Hunter. Although, he really did need to spend time with his family. He has been distancing himself a little bit. "So stop ignoring me when I call you then. Are you trying to make us worry about you?" Grace was a little irritated that Jacob didn't think about how his disappearing acts would make her feel. "He knows how much he worries." Jacob frowned. "No, then why, Jacob? Why do you do it to me?" His mom was annoying him too. "Because I can't deal with you when you're in this mood." He instantly regretted what he said. However, that was the reason he never picked up. She treats him like a little kid. "I beg your pardon." Grace frowned. No, Scott. Just because 𝐊𝐢𝐺 sick doesn't mean 𝐊𝐢𝐺 allowed to talk to me like that. I'm not sick." Jacob crossed his arms. He never raised his voice with his parents. They very rarely argue. But recently, his mom has been struggling with him because he was starting to find that getting through the day was more of an issue. She does blame herself for the way he is and she shouldn't put that guilt on her shoulders. William was sitting quietly. He felt sorry for his brother. He caught his mom on a bad day. She'll apologize to him later, but there was no talking her out of arguing when she gets started. And unfortunately, Jacob was her target. "You should give your mom a hug," Hunter thought. "It sounds like she has had a tough day." He knows Grace is never usually like this. After living in Jacob's head for a year, he knows a lot about his family. Jacob was a hugging kind of character, but this was an exception. He sighed, uncrossed his arms and walked over to her. She watched him hold out his arms and fold them around her. He hugged her tight at her back. "People have bad days, Mum," he said quietly. "I'm sorry Ivy made yours worse." After that, Grace couldn't help but hug him back. Dot's heart warmed. Jacob seemed to have his ability to read people well. Little did he know, it was the voice in his head that was good at reading people. "I hate arguing, Jay," she mumbled into his chest. "You can understand why I'm frustrated, though. Can't you? I'm just doing what all mothers do and worry about their children 24 hours a day." Jacob released a little smile and pulled back. "I know. Ivy been unfair. I'll stay ignoring your calls. Don't make promises you can't keep." She smiled. But seriously, a text would be nice. Now that the atmosphere was a lighter, William stood up. He wanted to take the attention away from his brother, and he had the perfect thing to do just that. "Now that you're probably not going to rip my head off," he said, making everyone turn and look at him. William cleared his throat and smiled proudly. He had something to announce that he hasn't asked for about a year. He had been holding it off for a few weeks because he wanted to find the right time to say it. "I have a girlfriend." Chapter 26. A girlfriend. Stott repeated his son. Jacob didn't expect that. But how funny. He is yet to announce his fling with Hunter that is growing more serious with every passing day. Although, announcing he has a boyfriend will have a different response to what William will receive. "Are you joking?" Grace asked with her arms still linked around Jacob. William had a big grin on his face. "Nope, no deception. We've been dating for a few weeks now." Stott then grinned to and crossed his arms. "What's her name?" "Alicia." Jacob frowned. That name sounded familiar. "You have got to be kidding me." Hunter sighed in his head. "Please let that be a coincidence." Jacob then remembered that the werewolf he encountered this morning was called Alicia, but she isn't William's type. I didn't think he would choose a 𝐊𝐷𝐷𝐿. It might not be her. Jacob hoped with everything he had that she was trying to get close to the family. "Let's keep our fingers crossed." "And you're official?" Dot asked. "Yep. We met at the college like a month ago or something." "Is Alicia a student?" Jacob asked Hunter. Alicia did appear to look like she was in her 20s. However, anyone of any age can go to college now. Although it's not hard for anyone to just wander into college. She could be pretending. Hunter had left his bedroom to discuss this situation with his parents. Even if it is a coincidence, they need to be cautious. "Why have you kept it quiet?" Grace questioned. "Are you going to bring her round soon?" "I wanted to wait until it had settled first. And yeah, she wants to meet you guys, so I'm bringing her round tomorrow." Just then, William's phone started ringing. He pulled it out of his pocket as Grace let go of Jacob and stared at her husband. They are really good at having silent conversations. They've been together so long now that they can predict what each other are thinking. "Oh, hey Hunter, William said happily. Jacob's head lifted, knowing Hunter was aware of what was going on. "Hey, how are you doing?" he asked on the other end of the call. "Yeah, good thanks. What's up?" "I was just wondering if I could pop round tomorrow to get some work done. If not, then hang out." William thought about turning him down because he's bringing Alicia round. But then again, Jacob will be very awkward tomorrow with meeting someone new, so maybe Hunter could talk to him for a bit. He seemed to be warming up to him. "Yeah, sure. Come over whenever you're ready." "All right, thanks. See you tomorrow." Hunter was very satisfied. He couldn't wait to see Jacob again and also meet William's mystery girlfriend. "Yeah." William hung up and threw his phone onto the couch. "Hunter's coming over tomorrow too." "Great," Stott said and looked at Jacob. "Maybe we could do a barbecue or something in the garden then. It's supposed to be warm tomorrow." "Yes, that'll be nice." Grace had an excited sparkle in her eye. She was eager to meet her son's girlfriend and judge her immensely. Jacob was just happy that Hunter was coming round. He hoped he came early. His chest was already throbbing. That night, Jacob went to bed early in hopes of getting a lot of sleep. His mind was very awake due to the fact that he was meeting his brother's girlfriend tomorrow, and she could potentially be a werewolf. He was happy that Hunter was coming over so he didn't have to face it by himself. His mind constantly drifted back to the kiss they shared. He couldn't believe how relaxed it made him feel. Now it was 9 in the morning and there was a knock on the door. Grace and Scott were in the kitchen having a coffee. Scott frowned and stood up to answer it. He was surprised to see Hunter standing outside the house with vibrant eyes. "Wow," Scott chuckled. "You're 𝐖𝐸𝐺. Why are you here so early?" "I was bored." He smiled. Well. William is not awake yet." Scott stood to the side so he could enter. "But you're welcome to wake him up. Just don't do it loudly. You might startle Jacob." "Okay." Hunter took off his jacket and hung it neatly over the door with the rest of the coats. He greeted Grace before wandering down the hallway and towards the stairs. Scott sat back down at the kitchen table. What 18-year-old boy willingly gets up this early on a Sunday morning? Grace chuckled and poured him some more coffee. Hunter slowly opened the door to the bedroom. His mate's scent made his spine shiver as he glanced into the dull room. His eyes didn't even trace William. They instantly landed on Jacob. He was laying on his stomach with his arms coiled around his pillow and his head buried into it. He was laying on top of his duvet with only pajama bottoms on and no t-shirt. He was fast asleep. The pleasure hit Hunter when his eyes traced his bare skin. He was more muscular than he thought and had to resist the temptation to run his fingers along his back. He didn't want to wake him yet, but his head was building up a storm. He walked over and slowly sat next to him on the small single bed. "Jacob," he whispered out loud and rested a hand on his shoulder. His skin was so warm and smooth. "Jacob." He shook him gently and woke him almost immediately. Jacob frowned and stretched his tired body before burying his head further into his pillow. Hunter smiled. "Jacob." He shook him once more, and this time his mate flickered his eyes open and slowly turned around. Hunter got a good look at his muscular front and bit his lip to stop himself from kissing him. Jacob rubbed his puffy eyes and stared at Hunter. A little confused. "Morning," Hunter whispered after glancing at William to make sure he was definitely asleep. The unbearable pain surged right through Jacob's chest as he quickly sat up. Hunter could feel it too while they both leaned forwards and wrapped their arms around each other. Jacob was clumsy and half asleep as he basically climbed onto Hunter. He gripped his t-shirt and squeezed him tight. The bond settled and their headaches quickly mellowed. Jacob yawned quietly against his shoulder, causing Hunter to smile wide. "Did you sleep well?" he asked in his head. Jacob nodded and pulled back. His eyes were still half shut, but when he realized he wasn't wearing a t-shirt, his cheeks blushed red and he shuffled away from Hunter. "Do you always sleep without a t-shirt? Because I definitely approve." Jacob rested his back against his pillow and pulled his duvet up to his chest. "Stop looking at me like that." Hunter grinned, but William suddenly started to stir. He stood up from Jacob's bed, knowing that would be the last time he could get close to him today. Unless they were left in a room alone together. Jacob was feeling a little sad about that too. But at least he wasn't hurting anymore. "Will?" Hunter walked over and flicked his temple. William jumped and opened his eyes. "What the hell?" He mumbled tiredly and tried to focus on his surroundings. "Why are you here so early?" He rubbed his eyes and blinked until he could focus. "You said to come whenever I was ready." Hunter shrugged. Jacob watched and wished he could tell his family about Hunter. But it was too early into their relationship. He yawned again before climbing out of bed. He was really hungry and started his quest to get breakfast. 2 hours later. "She'll be here soon," William said and flopped onto a sun lounger in the garden. Jacob was crouching over the little pond they have at the back of the garden and fed the fish. Hunter was sitting next to William, but seemed to be very interested in what Jacob was doing. Scott had noticed. "Where did you meet her?" Hunter asked. College," William said. "She's studying art. Or something. You don't know." Hunter chuckled. "What about you then, love?" Grace asked him. "Have you got a girlfriend?" Jacob looked up and stared at him. He felt oddly jealous at the thought and it surprised him. No, I don't. Hunter smiled. He wondered what they would do if he told them he was gay. Please don't. Please don't. Not yet. Jacob thought. I won't. Girls are practically falling at your feet. William chuckled. Why are you still single? The jealousy was building up inside of Jacob and it irritated him. He didn't think he was the jealous type. Calm down over there. I only have the hots for you. Hunter tried to suppress a cheeky grin. He loved how Jacob felt that way. Jacob's cheek flushed red and he looked back down to the fish as they poked at the surface of the water, eating their food. Most of them are not really my type. He shrugged. What he meant to say was all of them are not his type because firstly, they are girls and secondly, they are not Jacob. Just then, they heard a faint knock at the door and William jumped up out of his seat. He was nervous about introducing Alicia to his family and Hunter, but he didn't care if they liked her or not. He liked her and that's all that mattered. Jacob stood up as he and Hunter made eye contact. Hunter smiled, creating him to melt a little. Grace and Scott were watching the back door. They could hear their son talking to someone and their footsteps approaching. Jacob stepped around the pond and put the fish food on the patio, just as the back door opened. When William walked out, closely followed by his girlfriend, Jacob and Hunter instantly tensed. This is not good. Hunter thought and stared at a member of his rival pack. It was in fact Alicia the werewolf. However, today, she was all smiles and happily greeted Grace and Scott with very polite manners. Jacob chewed on his bottom lip and nervously wrung his hands. Alicia, that's my brother Jacob and my friend Hunter. William beamed as she turned to look at them. A flash of mischief could be seen in her eyes and also her grin. Oh, I know these two. She spoke, causing Scott and Grace to frown. Jacob felt like he was going to explode. What would she say? His future felt like it was about to roll right off her tongue. Even Hunter froze when she said that. Oh, William was a little surprised. Have you seen them around college before? No, Alicia smiled, but she was stunned. She was going to make Hunter pay for trespassing on their territory. And the only way she could do that was by targeting his mate. I've seen them out together. They're such a cute couple. Well, you didn't tell me your brother was gay.